how can $1 billion worth of gold be stolen? That's the core question this story revolves around. The story begins with a man who, from the outside, looks like a rich millionaire. But in reality, he's a legendary master thief. Whatever he sets his eyes on eventually ends up belonging to him. His life is filled with luxury five-star hotels, glamorous parties, and fearless robberies. He truly believes this lifestyle will go on forever. But as they say, carelessness always leads to trouble because of his past crimes. Some old enemies resurface and start chasing him again. One of them is a man whose hat he once stole, and now that same man is determined to take revenge. Slowly, the situation starts getting out of control. Things become so bad that surviving feels almost impossible. Danger surrounds him from every direction. Just when everything seems lost, a mysterious group suddenly appears and pulls him out of this mess. But this help isn't out of kindness. They have their own agenda. This group has a single goal: $1 billion worth of gold hidden inside a prison. And to pull off something this impossible, they need people who can turn the impossible into reality. This is where the story takes a sharp turn. Now, the focus shifts to Ringo. Ringo is no ordinary thief. He's a master of disguises, and cracking locks is child's play for him. Even the most secure bank safe deposit boxes don't stand a chance against him. But what truly sets Ringo apart from other thieves is that he isn't greedy. He only robs criminals, and whatever money he steals returns to the victims. The most unusual thing about Ringo is that after committing a theft, he never runs away. Running away. Instead, he would calmly walk straight out through the main door of the bank. By the time people realized what had happened, the surveillance cameras would only show his figure disappearing into the distance. With this mindset, Ringo formed a small team called the Misfits. One of the members was Vic, an explosives expert who had once single-handedly blown up an entire illegal weapons factory. The team also had a pilot, someone who looked calm and beautiful on the outside. But when the situation demanded it, she could take down an entire gang all by herself. Despite having such a powerful team, Ringo knew their next target would be the biggest one they had ever faced. Their target was billionaire Schulz. On the surface, he appeared to be a respectable investor, but behind the scenes, he was making money by working with terrorists. He owned several private prisons, and inside one of them, more than $1 billion worth of gold was hidden. Reaching this gold was far from easy. For that, they needed one more person, a thief who was an expert at breaking out of prison. That's when their attention turned to Richard, who was currently locked up in a Los Angeles prison. And this is where the real preparation for the massive heist begins. Richard was no ordinary criminal. He was a well-known name in the world of theft. Even behind bars, his planning abilities and skills were still razor-sharp. The Misfits knew that if there was anyone who understood how to get out of prison, then break back in it was Richard. Meanwhile, on the other side, things had already started moving inside the Los Angeles prison. Federal agents received orders to transfer Richard to a private prison. And that private prison belonged to none other than billionaire Schulz. The moment Schulz found out about this, news reached him. He personally came to oversee the transfer. But this wasn't out of duty or responsibility. The real reason was his custom-made hat, the same one Richard had stolen long ago. Schulz didn't want to let this opportunity slip. He wanted Richard inside his private prison so he could finally settle the score. Richard slowly began sensing that something was wrong. He realized the danger was closing in. Schulz had captured one of Richard's old friends and started interrogating him. But the man was fiercely loyal. No matter how much pressure was applied, he refused to say a word. Enraged, Schulz ignored prison rules, cut off the security camera feed, and ordered his men to torture him. Eventually, Schulz managed to track down Richard's location. Meanwhile, Richard had no idea he was being watched. As soon as he stepped out of prison, he selected a new target. Sitting in front of him was a billionaire wearing a pure gold platinum diamond-studded watch. Richard tried to strike up a conversation, but the man paid no attention. Thinking quickly, Richard pretended to spill a drink on him. And under the excuse of cleaning his clothes, he stole the expensive watch within seconds. He thought it was another easy job until everything suddenly went wrong. The guards caught him, and it was revealed that the man was none other than the famous Prince Al-Hali. Richard had to pay a heavy price for his mistake. The guards brutally beat him, but Richard had already planned for this. Before the beating even began, he had secretly hidden the room keycard somewhere else. The moment he got the chance, he slipped into the prince's room and stole watches worth nearly $1 million. Just as he was about to leave, the prince suddenly returned to the room. The guards searched the entire place, unaware that Richard was hiding just one wall away. The moment he found an opening, Richard slipped into the elevator and finally thought he was safe. But fate had other plans. As soon as he got into a car, the same prince appeared right in front of him. But this wasn't the real prince. It was actually a member of the Misfits team in disguise. He was the team's best driver. That's when Richard realized he had been set up. The Misfits took him straight to their hideout, where Ringo was already waiting. Seeing the entire team in front of him, Richard understood that he had walked straight into a den of thieves. Ringo clearly explained their real objective. $*$1 billion. Worth of gold hidden inside Schul's private prison. Can't for that. They needed Richard. Richard refused at first, but the fear of falling into Schul's hands was far greater. After giving it some thought, he agreed to join the team. And with that, the story takes yet another dangerous turn. Even after agreeing to work with the Misfits, Richard was clear in his mind he was doing this purely for his own benefit. His plan was simple: steal the gold and walk away. But Ringo's strategy wasn't that straightforward. On the way, Ringo explained the entire plan to Richard. Stealing the gold from Schul's private prison might sound easy, but in reality, it was anything but. Inside the prison, security operated on multiple levels: guards, cameras, alarms, and systems that monitored every small movement. Ringo knew that, without help from inside, this job would be impossible. As Richard listened to the plan, he felt a rush of excitement, but at the same time, a deep sense of danger. He understood that this wasn't just a robbery, it was a life-threatening mission. Around the same time, Schulz also realized that Richard had slipped out of his reach. Furious, he sent his men in every direction to hunt him down. Meanwhile, the Misfits kept moving forward without stopping and eventually reached Abu Dhabi. Richard's mind was still unsettled. He wanted to walk away from all this trouble. So the moment they stepped out of the airport, he separated from the team and decided to enjoy himself instead. Surrounded by Abu Dhabi's glittering luxury, expensive cars, and grand parties, Richard lost himself completely. Once again, he felt like luck was on his side. At a lavish party, his eyes fell on a billionaire wearing a branded luxury watch. Acting on instinct, Richard played his usual game, and within seconds, the watch was in his hands. But this time, things didn't go as planned. Just as he was about to leave, a mysterious woman stepped in. Not only did she return the watch to its owner, but she also placed a packet of children's toys into Richard's hands. Everything happened so fast that even Richard was stunned when he looked closely. The ground seemed to slip beneath his feet. The woman was none other than Hope, his daughter. After the divorce, Richard hadn't seen her for years. Seeing his daughter standing in front of him all of a sudden filled his eyes with emotion. Hope's presence changed something deep inside him. He realized that he had spent his entire life thinking only about himself. Leaving his daughter alone, Hope told him that she knew everything about him and about the Misfits' plan as well. That was the moment Richard decided to contact Ringo again. This time it wasn't because of greed. Not for greed, but for his daughter. He decided to join the gold heist mission, but with one condition. After the mission, the entire share would belong to him. Ringo made things very clear. The Misfits don't keep stolen money for themselves. Every bit of the gold would be donated to charity. Hearing this, Richard was about to back out again because for him, stealing had always been about personal gain. But then, for the first time, Hope asked her father for something. She told him this job was for the right reason and that this was his chance to fix his past mistakes. It wasn't an easy decision for Richard, but when he saw hope in his daughter's eyes, he couldn't say no for the first time in his life. Richard agreed to do something without expecting any benefit in return. And this is where the real gold heist mission truly begins. Before starting the mission, the most important thing was to find out where exactly the gold was hidden. Schul's private prison looked ordinary from the outside, but on the inside, it was extremely dangerous. Guards, cameras, and strict routines surrounded the place. One small mistake could trap the entire team, while the rest of the team worked on the plan. Richard and Hope finally got some time together. For the first time, Hope opened up and spoke her heart out. She explained how deeply hurt she had been when her father suddenly disappeared from her life. During her childhood, Richard had never imagined that his choices had caused her such deep pain. He promised Hope that he would never disappear without telling her again, no matter what happens. It wasn't an easy promise to make, but it meant everything to her. Sometime later, the team received confirmation that within 3 days, the terrorists were going to move the gold out of the prison. It meant the Misfits were running out of time. If they didn't act immediately, the entire plan would collapse. The team decided they needed to create complete chaos inside the prison. So much confusion that security would fall apart and no one would even realize what the real target was. Ringo made the first move. He disguised himself as a sanitation inspector, began complaining to the prison director about the terrible condition of the kitchen and the outdated oven. He warned that the oven could explode at any moment and damage the prison's reputation. The director was dreaming of a promotion, didn't think twice. He immediately ordered a brand new oven. This was all part of the plan. Vic hacked into the system and rescheduled the delivery for the very next afternoon. The director believed everything was under control, unaware that the real game was about to begin. On the day of delivery, the logistics driver was casually drinking alcohol when Violet arrived. The moment she got the chance, she locked the driver inside a storage locker. One of the team members then took his place and drove the truck straight to the prison. Now, it was Richard and Vic's turn. Disguised as maintenance workers, they entered the prison. As soon as they got inside, Richard kicked a nearby sculpture. This wasn't anger, it was part of the plan. Beneath that sculpture was a hidden passage leading forward. Everything was going smoothly until a new problem suddenly appeared. The prison director himself decided to come in for an inspection. Ringo tried to stop him, but he refused to listen. Left with no choice, Ringo had to go inside with him. The moment the team members heard the director's voice, they quickly hid inside the machinery. Just then, the director noticed something: the start button to test the new machine. For a few seconds, everyone's breath stopped. Ringo reacted instantly and said the machine hadn't been fully installed yet. If it was started now, it would show an error. The director accepted the explanation and walked out. The danger had passed, but the real job was still ahead. As soon as the director left, the Misfits let out a sigh of relief. But none of them realized how little time they had left. Taking advantage of the moment, Ringo hugged the director and silently stole his access card. This was the same card that could open the prison's restricted areas, waiting for the shift change. Richard and Vic quickly moved toward the laundry room, the only route that led to the underground vault. When the vault finally came into view, the team realized just how intense Schul's security really was. Thick steel doors, motion sensors, and alarms that were constantly active. Now it was time for the next phase of the plan. They needed to create chaos inside the prison so that no one would focus on the vault. Team members disguised themselves as food servers and mixed a very strong laxative into the meals. The prisoners had no idea and ate their food as usual. Soon after, total chaos broke out inside the prison. One by one, prisoners started falling sick. Vomiting, diarrhea, and panic spread everywhere. Doctors, guards, and stretchers rushed in all directions. The director himself ran in, but the smell and the scene were so overwhelming that he nearly collapsed. The entire prison had turned into complete disorder. This was exactly the moment the Misfits were waiting for. Vic and the other members, disguised as cleaning staff, reached the toilet area. Warning signs were placed to keep everyone away. Hope and the Prince entered the prison disguised as investigators. They planted a time bomb under a car chassis, so it could be used as a distraction if needed. Now, the real work inside the vault began. Vic carefully drilled a small hole in the floor at the right spot. As soon as the timer hit 3 seconds, he dropped the bomb inside. A powerful blast followed, but thanks to the chaos outside, no one paid attention. The vault was now open. Vic pushed the trolley inside and began loading it with gold bars. Richard worked quickly alongside him. Just then, Vic noticed a surveillance camera pointed directly at them. Instead of panicking, he calmly held up a gold bar, looked at the camera, and took a photo. This wasn't a joke. After hacking the system, that same static image was looped onto the surveillance screens. When Schulz was informed, he immediately ordered the live feed of the vault to be displayed. On the screen, the gold appeared perfectly intact. So he felt no immediate suspicion, but Schulz didn't stay calm for long. Doubt crept in, and he checked the screen again. This time, he noticed something strange. The image wasn't moving. Panic set in. He rushed toward the vault himself. But by then, it was already too late. The Misfits had completely cleared out the vault. Furious, Schulz ordered the entire prison to be sealed off. No one was allowed to leave. Just then, a patient stretcher was being taken out. Schulz noticed it, but he didn't know that the prisoner lying on it was actually Vic. Suddenly, a small gold bar slipped off the stretcher and fell to the ground. Schulz immediately realized something was wrong. He ordered all ambulances to be stopped. He was convinced that Richard and his team were still inside the prison. As the investigation continued, Schulz received another shocking update. His men had just discovered that men claimed that they had captured Richard's daughter. The moment Schulz heard this, a smile spread across his face. He believed he could now control Richard completely, but just then 2 people standing nearby caught his attention. They were wearing protective suits and introduced themselves as staff from a toxic gas cleaning company. They warned that there was a possible gas leak inside the prison and that the area needed to be evacuated immediately. Schulz was confused, but with the situation already out of control, he didn't have much choice. At the same time, a car sped past Schulz at high speed. His eyes immediately fell on the gold visible inside the car, and he realized this must be the escape plan. Without wasting a second, he ordered his men to chase the vehicle. What Schulz didn't know was that this car was just a distraction. The car was being driven by Prince, a member of the Misfits team. He deliberately led the chase in the opposite direction, straight toward the desert. A high-speed pursuit began. Schulz felt victory was finally within reach. As soon as the car stopped, Schulz stepped forward himself and opened the trunk. It was empty in that moment. He realized he had been fooled once again. Meanwhile, the real team was still inside the prison. Richard and the others used the sculpture as a casting mold. They melted the gold inside the oven and poured the liquid gold into the mold. Within minutes, a massive gold statue was formed. The team then painted over the statue to make it look like a damaged object. Using the excuse of repairs, they openly presented it in front of the director. Not even for a second did the director suspect anything was wrong. He completed the paperwork and officially allowed the team to leave the prison. Schulz was completely consumed by rage. He was just about to pull out his gun when the guards suddenly surrounded him. He couldn't even understand what was happening. And then, the real truth was revealed. The prince was not fake at all. He was the real Prince Al-Hali. Even before the operation began, he had secretly positioned his own guards. The moment Schulz tried to raise his weapon, the guards immediately restrained him. Schulz was now fully trapped. Still, he believed he had one final move left. He ordered his men to deal with Richard's daughter. But in the very next moment, Violet stepped forward, the woman Schulz thought was Hope. In reality, Violet had intentionally allowed herself to be captured. Despite being held hostage, the pilot took down all of Schulz's men within moments. Now, Schulz had no options left. Standing in front of him were Richard and the rest of the team. The pilot had eliminated every threat, and no one could stop them anymore. Schulz made one last desperate attempt. But Prince Al-Hali's guards restrained him again. In the final phase of the mission, The Misfits secretly transferred the gold from the vault and donated it to charity. They didn't keep a single dollar for themselves. The chaos in Abu Dhabi slowly settled down, but using disguises and clever tricks. The Misfits successfully diverted the authorities' attention. No one ever realized that the gold had been stolen. Richard thanked Ringo and the rest of the team and promised that he would never act selfishly again. And with that, the $1 billion gold heist is complete without a single death and without making a sound. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and press the bell icon. Otherwise, the next heist will happen without you, and trust me, you don't want to miss it.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.